She will not rest until she is satisfied she has found a sufficient answer. She's skeptical of new information and will critically examine it before accepting it. She's also a talented writer and a hand drum player. She has a certain, this is from Humanities, she has a certain breathlessness about her because she's always discovering the world for the first time. She wants to be the very best version of herself that she can be. She's afraid of not being the best, of not being unique, of not fulfilling her potential, of getting her life wrong, and she has endless questions. She's extremely intense and deep and has spent her life reads books that aren't even published, doesn't sleep so much. Isabel Kucher.
When you think of the responsibility of a family towards a child, you tend to think about loving them, nurturing them, encouraging them, supporting them, and most importantly, teaching them how to live their lives in a meaningful, ethical way. On the other hand, when you think of the responsibility of a school towards its students, you normally think about providing the students with a thorough understanding of subjects such as math, science, English, and in some cases Jewish studies, with the goal of allowing the students to fulfill their intellectual potential and preparing them to become successful and competent members of society. Akiba breaks that mold. In my opinion, what makes Akiba the extraordinary school we all know it to be is its insistence on teaching its students not only the means to becoming successful, competent citizens, but also how to build a steady foundation of ethics and morality in their daily lives. In other words, Akiba, as a school, chooses to fulfill the responsibilities of not only the school, but also those of the family, in an effort to provide us, its students, with the highest level of education possible, an education that will thoroughly prepare us for every challenge that we will encounter, both intellectual and moral, as we enter adulthood. Akiba has prepared me better than any other environment could have, and has given me all that I require to feel confident in my abilities to take on any challenges the future will present. You might think that this level of education is nothing unique among religious schools, but that is not the case. Akiba's efforts to instill a sense of morality in its students take place not only during Jewish classes, but during secular ones as well, to such an extent that I can safely say I have solidified some of my most important and fundamental beliefs through a secular class, more specifically through the Humanities program, our history and English course. The Humanities program opened my eyes to a whole new dimension of society, completely changing how I see and interpret the world. It would be impossible for me to convey the extent of the knowledge that I have gained from humanities, but here's my attempt to provide you with a glimpse. I now understand the role of unspoken rules in a community, how they control so many of our actions, and how they can even trump actual laws. I have become familiar with the consequences of breaking unspoken rules, defying society's expectations for you, and the source of these consequences, suspicion of difference or fear of the unknown, the ultimate phobia. I know how hard it can be to be an individual within a community, that the simplest path is to conform to society's unwritten rules without really thinking about it and not rock the boat, and that the wonderful feeling of belonging to a community and the fear of otherization is what makes it so difficult to stand up for what you know is right and break societal codes. The sheer amount of courage required to do so is the reason that the action deserves a specific name, being an upstander. I used to think that I would be looked down upon for voicing criticism or disagreeing, and that is enough of a reason to stay quiet. Now, I know that the benefits of standing up for what I know is right far outweigh the drawbacks. I have realized that bystanders are nearly as guilty as the perpetrators themselves. I have come to believe that empathy is the key to prevention of otherization, discrimination, stereotyping, making assumptions, and dehumanization. Empathy is the road to equality, morality, and truth. I also believe that the only characteristics a person's worth should be judged by are the morality of their past actions and their potential for being a moral person, not their skin color, ethnicity, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. Having said that, the characteristics a person should be judged by are practically impossible to measure, so the only alternative is to judge and stereotype people as little as possible. Through humanities, I have learned how to think critically about subjects ranging from the book I'm reading to what figures of authority in my life are telling me to think to what society is telling me to think, to my own thoughts and emotions, all of which is critical if I intend to avoid conforming mindlessly to whatever I'm told. I used to think that my differences set me apart in a bad way. Now I realize that they set me apart in the best way possible. I remember thinking that I didn't like the idea of becoming well-known, simply because I knew that there were always going to be people who disagreed with me or didn't like me. Now, I know never to let anybody's disapproval stop me from expressing my opinions, and that all the criticism in the world will be worth it if I inspire even one person with what I have to say. These ideas and skills sound precisely like what a child would be taught by their families, and yet I learned them in school due to Akiba's efforts towards preparing me for all aspects of life, not just several of them. And the fact that I learned ethics outside of Jewish studies proves Akiba's dedication to the cause. Now, Akiba's education has opened my mind to the potential of the world and the potential within me, effectively inspiring me to always fulfill it. What I learned will remain essential to me no matter where I go or what I do. I cannot think of a better way to prepare a child for entering society. For this, I have to thank my humanities teachers, Ms. Schiller and Mr. Landers. Thank you for everything. Akiba succeeds in bridging the differences between school and family in more ways than one. Like a family, Akiba does a wonderful job of nurturing, encouraging, supporting, and loving its students, and teaching them to treat one another in the same way. Mrs. Schiller is always easily accessible and can always be found walking around the school, actively engaging in the workings of Akiba. Mrs. Willer-Schreiber is always up for a vague philosophical discussion. Robin is always happy to give you candy on Fridays. Miss Rothfeld is always willing to give you advice on any day. If I'm feeling unhappy, Mr. Salk always makes my day a little better when he smiles at me in the hallways. Students are given opportunities to strengthen their friendships with each other through experiences such as the Springfield and Israel trips. It's always been clear to me that at Akiba, the teachers and staff are personally invested in the well-being and success of the students. I cannot fully express my gratitude towards all of my teachers who were there for me every step of the way, whether I needed help with a homework assignment or just someone to talk to. At Akiba, I was more than just one piece of the student body. I was an individual deserving of my own category. Again, these are traits displayed by an ideal family. Of course, the excellent academics at Akiba cannot go unmentioned. When I say that Akiba has the best education system one can hope for, I mean that not only about ethics, but about Chumash, Navi, Gemara, math, science, history, and English as well. I would like to thank Mrs. Bassa for always pushing me to my limits in math, and Rabbi Meirowitz for teaching me how to think through Gemara. I never really had an interest in history, but Akiba presented history in an engaging, exciting way. The English curriculum at Akiba is exemplary, and hopefully this speech reflects that. Overall, the academics at Akiba are challenging, inspiring, and have fully prepared me for becoming a competent, innovative member of our society. Akiba, as a school, is committed to fulfilling the responsibilities of not only the school, but also those of the family, in an effort to provide us, its students, with the highest level of education possible, an education that will thoroughly prepare us for every challenge that we will encounter, both intellectual and moral, as we enter adulthood. Akiba's highly sophisticated system of education is already helping me outside of school, and my achievements are almost always direct results of my time at Akiba. Akiba has become a second family to me, the family I chose for myself, and I greatly needed the extra support it provided, both in terms of moral guidance and caring. Akiba has put me on the path towards becoming the person I aspire to be. Thank you.
I have to give a disclaimer. These students wrote these themselves. I do not